Hello, everyone. We are continuing on learning about point of view. We wrote this chart in our reading journal, but I wanted to go over it quickly. So first person, that is when the narrator is a character in the story. You can tell this by pronouns such as I, me, mine, we, ours, my, us. Second person is when the narrator is actually talking to the reader. So you'll see pronouns like you, your, those are hints to determine whether it's second person point of view. And then third person is when the narrator is outside the story, just telling about the characters. There are three different types. There's omniscient, limited, and objective. And the big question to determine whether it's third person omniscient, third person limited, or third person objective is using this question. The big question is, does the narrator tell the thoughts and feelings of characters? In omniscient, we know all the thoughts and feelings of characters. In limited, we know the thoughts and feelings of only one character. And then objective, the author or the narrator does not reveal any character's thoughts or feelings. So we're going to look at some examples of texts here. Before we do that, here's a little picture explaining that. So first person is I, me, my. I tell the story. I'm a character in the story, and it's about me. Now, third person omniscient. This is the all-knowing narrator who knows the thoughts and feelings of all of these characters, as opposed to third person limited here, where the narrator only knows the thoughts and feelings of one character. So here's a little visual to help you with that. Now we're going to take a look at the text. As we read, I'm going to underline pronouns and thoughts or feelings that I hear as I read. So which perspective? I know I shouldn't have let Pedro walk home from school. He's too little. He must be so scared. We walked to and from school so many times. I thought he would know his way. Now he's lost. I'm his big sister. I should have been more responsible. So in this, I actually heard a couple types of pronouns. Don't let this confuse you because we saw I, and then we saw he. But we know that this is actually first person because the narrator is a character in the story. I knew I shouldn't have let Pedro walk home. So because of that, because we know that the narrator is telling from their perspective, this is a first person point of view. Okay, let's look at this. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the guy who'll decide where to go. So in this, we see lots of you, your, yourself. In this case, we know that the narrator is actually talking to the reader. So this is in fact second person. All right, here it says, Miss Thompson spotted Maria walking on the sidewalk, calling out Pedro's name. She knew she shouldn't have let Pedro leave the schoolyard alone, even though she was just his first grade teacher. Mrs. Thompson always felt a special bond with Pedro. Her heart sank. She pulled her car over and told Maria to get in. They would look for Pedro together. She noticed tears forming over Maria's eyes. She reached over and patted Maria's knee. We will find him, Maria. She hoped that comforted Maria a little. So in this passage, we can tell that it's third person. The narrator is outside of the story, but we are able to tell some thoughts and feelings. I was able to see this by underlining and noticing phrases like she knew, her heart sank, she hoped. Those helped tell me that we know the thoughts and feelings of Mrs. Thompson. When reading through, we did not see Pedro's thoughts and feelings, and we didn't know Maria's thoughts and feelings. So this would let us know that this is third person limited perspective because we know the thoughts and feelings. The narrator tells the thoughts and feelings of only one character. Moving on, it says, Mrs. Thompson watched Pedro walk away from the schoolyard alone. There is a small voice inside her that told her to stop him. He's just a little boy. He's far too small to walk home alone, she thought. Pedro walked by the white picket fence that he walked by every day on his way to and from school. He stopped at the street. Which way do I turn? He thought to himself. He stood there and looked up and down the street, trying to remember if he needed to turn left or right. He turned right and looked desperately for something that looked familiar to him. Nothing did. He started to panic. Where am I? Should I turn around and go back? I wish my sister was with me. Maria looked at her watch again. Where is he? She thought. With a slight sense of panic, she began walking towards the school. Have you seen Pedro? She asked a neighbor as she hurried by. So in this point of view, we're able to see Miss Thompson, Pedro, and Maria. And with this, we were able to see Mrs. Thompson's thoughts and feelings. There was a small voice inside her that told her to stop him. So we know that that's a thought. We also were able to determine Pedro's thoughts because over here it says he started to panic, and that was referring to Pedro. And then the other third character that we were able to determine their thoughts and feelings in this story was Maria. It says, where is he? She thought. And because we see three characters and the thoughts and feelings of those three characters, we can tell that this is, the narrator is using the third person omniscient point of view. All right, here's our last one. Pedro began to cry. He stopped walking and sat down on the sidewalk. Mrs. Truer noticed the boy as she hung her coat up on the hook next to the window. She opened the door and rushed over to him. Are you lost, sweetheart? She asked. Pedro nodded and sniffed. Mrs. Truer wiped the tears off his cheeks with the end of her scarf. So in this perspective, we're able to tell it's third person because we see those helpful pronouns, he, she, but we are not able to see any thoughts and feelings in this. So he began to cry. You can see that. You can observe that. She opened the door. That's an observation as well. And then she asked, are you lost, sweetheart? So because anyone from the outside could observe someone asking, are you lost? We can tell that this is third person objective because the narrator does not reveal any character's thoughts or feelings. They just discuss what happened in the story. I hope this helps clarify some things. So in your assignment, we're actually going to have passages and you're going to let us know what point of view the narrator is using. Here's a little sentence stem for you. It says, I know the narrator is using blank point of view. I know this because. So that is a guideline. We will have this on the directions for your assignment if you do need to use it for assistance. Oops. And here's an example. So this should be a familiar book to you. It says, Mama's sewing machine clanged all week long. Sometimes I woke up and heard the singer before the morning sawmill whistle blew, and sometimes I fell, sometimes I fell asleep at night listening to the rhythm of the foot pedal hitting the floor. So this is a passage from Mr. and Me, and what we would expect to see in your on your assignment in Canvas is you writing, the narrator is telling the story from a first person point of view. I know this because the narrator is a character in the story. So remember, we use our pronouns to help figure out which person or point of view the narrator is telling the story from. And then you'll explain why. So I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.